Ben Wheeler, ally of Imaginary Goddess, bringing you my Set 14 Genesis deck. I really like Yatagarasu. I don't really like her deck so much. It gets kind of weird. I need to tweak it so I can enjoy it. But it's a really fun deck. It's got a simple cadence to it. It's strong. I can pull off Yatagarasu's ability multiple times a turn without minusing my deck too much. And at the same time, I've developed a deck that almost guarantees it as long as you can break ride with Metis. So, fantastic. As well as ways to recover from, missing the break ride or any other issues that can come up. Genesis, there's a lot that can go wrong with it. If you can't get any soul charge, or if you get too much soul charge and you get too many triggers into your soul. For example, one of the reasons why Artemis isn't as great as it could be is that if you do the ride chain and you get to the grade 2 and he soul charges 4, there's been multiple times where a guy has soul charged 4 in front of me and they're all triggers. So in other words, the smartest move to play with Genesis is to let them soul charge, because they'll have ways to power up their ability anyway, and you might as well try to guarantee as many triggers as possible as in that lineup, because that's less triggers they'll drive check. Starter. This is the best starter in all of Genesis for most decks. When this unit boosts a grade 3 Genesis, doesn't have to be Vanguard, but it will be, you may soul charge 1. Aesthetic art, fantastic design. There's a couple of other cards around, like Vivid Rabbit, or that one kid who's like Counterblast 2 when it boosts Genesis and it hits Soul Charge 3. These cards aren't that great. They're Counterblast 2 for Soul Charge 3. Well, guess what? This is what this does for Counterblast 1. And sure, it's on boost and it's on Vanguard boost, but at the same time, it's lackluster. It's efficient. It's not efficient. It's practical, but at the same time, it's overcosted. Not really what you want for most decks. The cadence is off, and this deck is all about cadence. Cadence is a sort of concept for heal triggers that sort of describes how you play a deck, how you fight for draws. Basically, imagine this. You guys are tugging rope, and everyone's taking turns sort of tugging. You pull, you push, you pull. You pull, you rest, you pull, you rest, you pull, you rest. And then all of a sudden you start pulling while they're pulling. And that's about when you start guarding. What I do is 8 crit triggers. I like the art of Witch of Lemons? Lemotia? Something like that. But unfortunately, I don't have her art. Still, this is pretty badass. This is pretty cute. So, in other words, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to guard early, take as least damage as possible, and then once it's time, you get to Metis. You soul charge 2 every time you attack, and once you're ready, once you're at limit break, you attack for the big shebang. Yatagarasu does not take... Ooh. Just a second. That's right. Yatagarasu does not take counterblasts. So in other words, there's a plethora of counterblasts just lying around for perfect shields, just lying around for the taking. Now, this is sort of a tech bunch, so, for you to deal with as you want. One AK booster, I found her incredibly useful, just randomly. I just, find myself, I need AK. I don't know why I needed AK, but I needed exactly AK, and all of a sudden she's in my hand. Great card. Aesthetic. All the Genesis cards are really aesthetic. It's sometimes, I don't know. And useful in small doses. 2 of these babies. These are part of the safety net for this Genesis deck. Unlike, say, and not Angelica. What's her name? Minerva. Who I always wonder why they never paired her up with Himiko. But then it's like, cross break right. It's like, So why not with Himiko and give things plus 5k? Anyway, that's just me editorializing. This thing is Counterblast 2 when an attack hits a Vanguard that this unit boosted Soul Charge 3. Sure, I remember what I said about the starter, but this is a 7k, and there's a lot of 11ks or higher in this deck under certain circumstances. you know, really, some of these decks, I could run the 11k booster. I mean, sorry, 11k attacker, but I just don't feel like it, because I don't like those cards, because they're 8k. That's as simple as that. But she's pretty great. Very useful. You'll find that later in the game, you don't want to ride grade 3s over and over again, unless it's Yatagarasu and Yatagarasu, and you just need that one soul left. Oh, by the way, quick combo with her. I'll do that later. She fixes things. Fixer. Tech. These two. Witcher Frogs Melissa. Alternatively, the thing about these is that you do need at least 2 of the Witcher Frogs and Tatsu Tahime. This thing is in there just because the AK is in there just because I find it useful. Really, if you run 3 Witcher Frogs, 3 Tatsugahimes, it doesn't change much. Remember, this deck doesn't use Counterblast as heavy as you might think. Sure, there's about 5, 6, 7 cards, 6 cards, I think, that use Counterblast's Quintet Walls. But here's the problem with Quintet Walls. You can only do 1, better in Regalia. Excuse me. So in other words, you can afford to put the Counterblast here, the 2 Counterblasts here. Witcher Frogs is great. What she does is when she's Soul Blasted, she can go to the drop zone, Counterblast 1, puts it on the field. Technically, I've got Witch of Ravens in here, she can be used to fill up field wherever you need it. Honestly, I haven't had a problem with field in this deck yet, so, you know, it depends on what your philosophies are. Arcanar, named after a star, don't know which one. He has, when you Soul Blast another version of him, he gets plus 3k. Yes, I've Soul Blasted 3 with 1 in the field. Yes, he does get 9k. Yes, all of a sudden that's a 27k column. Good card. Again, the 7k boosters are fantastic. Really work in the deck. All of a sudden he's in a 10k booster. That works well in the deck. Really one of the key cards. That's why I run 4. There's a Mythgard deck coming out when the Genesis Extra Booster comes out. That's going to be fantastic. Put these guys in the bottom. 4 of these ladies, what's their name? Saho Himes. Counterblast 1 with this unit attack hits a Vanguard, and you have got a Genesis Vanguard Soul Blast, Soul Charge 3. Obviously to keep you from using it in Dark Irregulars. But at the same time, these people, they're fixers. You'd be surprised how little I do need to use them. But at the same time, they're there because I do need that safety net. I had tried Witch of Grapes Grappa originally, but here's the problem. She works when you focus on things like Angelica or Himiko, rather than Metis, which is a Soul Charge 3 automatically. By the time you break ride Yatagarasu, you should have 8 in Soul. When you attack, she Soul Charges 1, and you're at 9, boom, you know, your ability goes off. Tech. I have the 10k defense sometimes, useful. And then Witch of Ravens, Camerwile, 3 of her, Counterblast 1 when this unit is Soul Blasted and put into the drop zone. Counterblast 1, put it on a rearguard zone. I don't use her for multiple attacks so much as I use her to fill the field. But then again, I haven't had many problems with field where she's been absolutely useful. She's been there. Really, you can put anything in there. The 11k attacker, the anything really. It's up to your imagination. This is the grade 2 version of Arcanar, plus 3k every time you Soul Blast a different version of him. 12k attacker if you Soul Blast 1. All of them get the same ability. So in other words, you have 2 out, you Soul Blast 2, they both get plus 6k. In other words, they turn into 15k columns. That's how you do the same thing with Arcanars. All of a sudden, those are 28k columns. Yatagarasu, 16. Say this is... Oh, there's a great one. 16. Soul Blast. Stand. 28. Or is it 32? No, wait. 2? 6. 2, 6. 6. 27. My numbers are off. I'm tired. No, it's 28 because this turns into a 15k. That's what I was thinking of. Run 4 because you need that consistency. This deck is hyper consistent. It's stupid. Boring. You know, but at the same time, it is solid. For Metis, she is the only card that's a break ride that has a soul charge as a cost for the break ride. When a Genesis unit rides this unit, you may pay the cost, Counterblast 1. If you do, I've forgotten to do that for the longest time. Draw a card, soul charge 3, and give your Vanguard plus 10k. And of course the usual Genesis break ride attack ability. Soul charge 1 plus 1k, so in other words 12k attacker guaranteed. With her soul charge 2 for a 17k column, that'll hit most things. Fantastic card. Tried Himiko, but the thing is you have to build your deck around repairing the soul charge of Himiko, and I didn't really feel like doing that. It does work with Yatagarasu since you stand 2 units. The ace of the deck, Yatagarasu. Sunlight Goddess Yatagarasu. Yeah. Let's see here. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, Soul Blast 9. Draw 2 cards. Choose 2 Genesises. Stand them. The ideal ride situation is to have them like this. Break ride. Boom. And you will have enough by the time you attack. Why will you have enough by the time you attack? Because on the break ride turn, she should be at 8. She usually is. Boom, boom, soul charge 9. The boost goes off before the ability here and this ability technically activates at the exact same time, but Vanguard is all about order of activations. When things activate simultaneously, and I think the booster actually comes a bit first, but I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't know the rules, the ruling on it doesn't matter. This gets soul charged, this hits 9, it happens. This ability also has a secondary, this goddess also has a secondary ability. During the battle, when this unit was attacked, when your Genesis Guardian is put in the drop zone, put it into your soul. This ability cannot be used for the rest of the battle. In other words, oh, what's that? 16k, 10k into soul. Oh, what's that? 12k attacker, 5k into soul. I have built up enough soul for I've built up enough soul just by using cards from my hand to use Yatagarasu's ability twice. Once at the break ride turn, another time, once at the break ride turn, and then another time about 4 turns onward. Keep in mind, though, I was guarding really good, I had decent draws, and she goes off once a turn. So in other words, you could technically soul charge 3 cards, maybe 4 if they have a stand, every turn. She soul charges 1. In other words, if you got a card that stands another one, you spend 10k, 10k, Perfect Shield 10k, soul charge 10k. That's 5 cards. 5 cards out of 9. You're already more than halfway there. You survive this you attack again, another soul charge, you're at 6. You survive another turn, you're at 9. I've actually been at 10. When I do it again. And of course the opponent just gave up. Yatagarasu is an underappreciated card. Everyone's all about Minerva. The problem is that she was in Japan, and so the meta is screwed up because we also take into account Japanese fighters and what they're doing, even though we really don't follow the Japanese trends as well as they do. Of course, they set the trends. What am I saying? We are not as controlled by their trends as others are to the Japanese, which is weird. They got their own systems, their own values. I never understood why DOTR didn't take off more, even though it's a restander for Counterblast, guaranteed restander. That you need 2 Perfect Shields or 2 Quintet Walls, which is 10 cards out of your deck, which could be all triggers and all that jazz. And it will most likely be. And if you don't, all of a sudden your guard starts looking pretty slim. And also there's all the retire that comes in beforehand. I just never understood why they didn't do it more with it. Whatever. I really hope that this card sees a lot of play in the future. The extra 2 attacks that are powered up, the extra 2 Mythgard attacks that are super powered up by the Soul Blast on this lady is fantastic, and I really hope we see more. I really hope that They do more with the Mythgard series, as well as less with the Regalia series. The next Genesis deck I'll probably do would be Brunhilde, which will be its own thing. Which I think will amuse everyone a bit. I'll also be doing a Procyon deck, which will be just fascinating because of how it works with all the Mythgards. This has been Ben Wheeler, the Mercenary King, signing off.